Um, Before some of y'all came on, I mentioned that I see doing the program committee work as ongoing and in process, and I'm learning and y'all are helping. So where we are now is reviewing this agenda. And let me take 45 seconds to mention why we're doing what we're doing, although some of this expect unfinished business because everything won't be settled. We're talking about things that are ongoing parts of our work or our challenges. So building capacity. It was great to hear that you now have 3 co-chairs for, I think it was Disarm, because we're going to talk about capacity as chairs, co-chairs, and co-conveners. Also talking about, we talked about last month, subcommittees and work groups, and the possibility of having just working groups, no subcommittees, and then some of the questions we have to answer in terms of accountability and what does it look like, which we had brought up last month but hadn't resolved. Also, in terms of capacity, adding and sustaining new members, both members in our issue committees and members in our branches. Then committee updates and a little bit of time to brainstorm about ideas for Congress, announcements, and then we're done. Is there anything that's missing here?
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Just to point out that it's not the 25th of September that would be our next meeting. It would be the 26th.
That's the Tuesday?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good
Which
catch.
is the day after Yom Kippur. You asked us if Yom Kippur wouldn't,
Oh, it's the day after. Okay, so it's all good.
Well, it may not be because of the way the Jewish people celebrate their holidays. They start one evening and go over. So maybe people, when you come to it, but I just wanted to point out the date.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And am I on there somewhere? I didn't spot a particular item.
Pardon?
This is Darian. Am I under announcements?
Yes.
Okay, it'll take more than 3 minutes if there are announcements besides mine, because I have several.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of building capacity, and this is both capacity in our branches and mostly in the issue committees, chairs, co-chairs, and conveners. What ideas do people have? I see your hand, Teresa. Please take not more than 3 minutes. And the fewer, the better.
Well, it's just a question because last night at the AHR meeting, there was a rather lively discussion about racial justice, which Joan Goddard was kind of persisting with, and it relates to the capacity issue. And I'm just asking if you got a chance to watch and listen to the AHR umbrella meeting video.
No, Donna doesn't have it in a form that you can watch it. She sent out a link, but it doesn't go anywhere. You probably got that too. She sent it to the AHR listserv. And I think she doesn't quite know how to, Donna, no, you're here.
George, I only sent it to you, and you said you can convert it. I don't know.
If you send me the MP file, that's what
I tried to send you what I could. We need to talk about it.
Okay. Hopefully I can talk you through it because it's in your Zoom files. We'll figure it out. We can absolutely figure it out. But so no, Teresa, I don't have that, but we will be talking about work groups and subcommittees. But you also had a comment about the capacity for chairs, co-chairs, or co-conveners.
Well, George, when we get to that, but you have us down for 20 minutes on building capacity, which I think is an important conversation, given how weak the branches are in most places. In my observation, having visited some recently, and I think that we have to take into account that the issue committees and the branches are not as strong as they could be. So I think the capacity discussion is an important one to have. And I'm glad you allotted 20 minutes for it.
Okay. I know we've lost the other program committee chair, and those of us on the board who read her email about it will note that it was a capacity issue for her in terms of her own priorities and her time and her job. And I really think having Diane, Cheryl, and I think Ellen maybe, or Nancy as the co-chairs of Disarm, having 3 co-chairs may be a solution to not having enough capacity there. And making sure all the working groups have co-conveners is important. Anything else anybody has on this specifically about chairs, co-chairs, or conveners before we move to subcommittees and work groups? Yes, Cheryl.
Yes, I think, Disarm, we have recently added some people to the committee. I think we're probably up to about 67 people who are on the listserv. And we have about like 25, 30 who turn up at meetings, and most of them are members of our different projects. And so Diane Blay has agreed to be a 3rd co-chair, which I'm sure is going to help with things. There's a lot of administrative stuff that we try to keep up to, so people could read the minutes who couldn't come to the meeting and learn things. So I don't know other groups, whether they have 2 co-chairs, but I think having more chairs is a good idea. And so I think, and we are trying to get the branches to do things. I mean, this is what Disarm always does, is we interact with branches, we suggest things for them to do, and many of them do it in different levels of intensity. And Ellen Thomas, my other co-chair, has just written to say they're having thunderstorms in her area, so she's going in and out of the being available on Zoom. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Cheryl. Teresa, then Darian.
George, we have in no way exhausted 20 minutes on this discussion. And I really take issue with you kind of glossing by it, given the significance of it.
All of this is 20 minutes, Teresa. All of the things underlined is what has 20 minutes. Co-chairs, subcommittees, and adding and sustaining members. That's all under building capacity. That's all intended for 20 minutes.
Don't feel badly, Teresa. Some of the rest of us took a while to get it to.
Oh, well, I definitely didn't get that. But let me just say this. There is a lack of continuity across committees, Madam Program Chair. You have Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee, which I think has maybe 2 co-chairs. You got Disarm with now 3 co-chairs, and the Advancing Human Rights Committee, which has a proliferation of so-called subcommittees, which are actually working groups. And I think those of us who are heading up the so-called working groups should be considered in the capacity of co-chairs for the AHR, but that's probably a discussion to be had at the end of September when we continue to examine the lack of capacity within AHR just to do the work of the 3 active committees, not to mention the Ghost Committee of the UN for Women that hasn't met in some time, and then Joan Goddard's call to add back the Racial Justice Committee. And I really appreciate Cheryl saying some months ago that Disarm does not have subcommittees. And I think that is a very eye-opening point. So why does AHR have subcommittees? when Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee also has working groups. The Lebanon working group, there was a Hamas booklet working group, and I think there just has to be some continuity among these issue committees in terms of what the structures are inside of them. And AHR is really struggling, and I think, Madam Program Committee Chair, that we need to really examine AHR in terms of this consistency and continuity and capacity going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Teresa. I appreciate that the chairs, co-chairs, and co-conveners are able to decide what their capacity is and how many people they need to handle the work. Darian and then Robin.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that I happened to get on the stack right after Teresa, because Teresa, for someone who calls for 1-hour meetings, for you to talk for 3 minutes straight, and a lot of it sounded to me like criticism of internal AHR processes. The idea that all the issue committees should have to be exactly the same is something we haven't embraced in WILF, because we want to give issue committees an opportunity to try different approaches and avenues. We haven't had subcommittees as a really very formal structure in AHR for more than about 1.5 years now. And that's something we're still learning about. I've had concerns about subcommittees all along, and I have even greater concerns about work groups, because I'm focused on how is the leadership of any body selected. And I don't know how the subcommittee conveners are selected. I know that issue committee chairs are supposed to be democratically selected by their issue committees. With work groups, because of their betwixt and between nature, I'm concerned that the lines of responsibility and authority will get very confused, because a lot of WILF decision-making is through the program committee and through the issue committee chairs, decision-making in terms of program. So I don't have to belittle any issue committee, because each has its own character. Disarm actually does have subgroups of some kind, which I think of as subcommittees working on various projects, but they're much more fluid rather than reified as they are in AHR. And if this Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee finds work groups work within Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee, that's great. My concern is when work groups are used to bring together the work of multiple issue committees, then what are the lines of decision making and who gets to make choices? So it's a very interesting area. I appreciate that this is on the agenda, and 20 minutes is a good beginning. Thank you.
Thanks, Darian. You're right. And as I said before, expect unfinished business, because these are conversations that will need to be ongoing, not necessarily all of them, but many. Robin?
Yeah, on the subject of building capacity, I thought that our gathering, I'm not talking about our WILF gathering, but the other gathering was quite interesting and in fact inspiring. And I don't see anyone referring to that. I mean, I think it should, unfortunately, there was only one person from my branch besides myself that was on the call on those 2 nights. But in other words, it was to meet lively branches, to meet the staff. I don't know, can we send out bits of that to get people to look at it, because so many people missed it? How can we use the energy from that moment, I guess is what I'm asking.
Or how can other people create similar energy in similar moments? Thanks, Robin.
Point of information, there will be an e-news article about the WILF gathering, and I believe that in the near future there will be a link to the second night of the WILF gathering and possibly to excerpts from it. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking about, Robin.
Robin, was your event videotaped?
Yeah, the Medea Benjamin part was taped, and I will be sending that out shortly.
Okay, thanks. Cheryl, and I think Nancy Price joined us. I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen, but welcome,
Could you,
Nancy.
yes, actually, if you could not screen share, it it would help, George. It would help for us to see everybody. Thank you. So just to say that from the online Wolf gathering, we gained at least, I'd say, 3 new members of the Disarm Committee, and which I saw from the breakout rooms. You know, I had people in the breakout room that really came because of what I had. I had my 3 minutes that I said what we were doing, and people heard that and came and said they wanted to join, and so
Wonderful.
we added them. So from the Disarm point of view, anyway, it was a success in gaining more members. Thank you.
That's great. Anything else on co-chairs and chairs and conveners and co-conveners? Thank you, guys. We may be coming back to this. Okay. And now on subcommittees or work groups. I'm strongly recommending that we have working groups, not necessarily subcommittees, unless y'all think it's a really horrible idea. And to share the screen again, I want us together to generate or brainstorm or popcorn answers to these 3 questions. And this is something we won't necessarily resolve tonight. But in my thought, the working groups, because Darian, you're concerned about authority and accountability, I think these working groups will be time or project defined. The ARH subcommittees or so-called subcommittees, border justice, ending mass incarceration, the death penalty, UN decade of people of African descent and reparations, those all constitute a specific project or priority. I should have put priority in addition to project around racial justice. The UN decade will end in December of 2024, so that's time defined. The No NATO working group is about a specific project or priority, clamping down on NATO. So working groups in that sense make sense to me. Y'all might have more to say. The relationship and accountability to issue committees, that's something we have to think about. The ARH committee certainly has working groups. No NATO to some extent is a priority for Earth democracy, but I'm not saying that it's responsible for Earth democracy, and also should have a relationship with Disarm. The process for support and reports, I don't have an idea about that. That's why I'm hoping that y'all will brainstorm, popcorn, present ideas that then we might be able to make use of. Teresa, 1 or 2 minutes?
Well, George.
Not more than 3.
Well, you know, say what it is it 1 or is it 2? Because I really don't appreciate the president of the organization finding reason to attack me on every occasion that she finds a reason to do that. But my point, George, is that the UN decade ends in December 2024. It is an international resolution that all sections around the world should be doing something on. It was really pointed out to me that the Northeast Tour and all the other tours that are going to take place around the UN decade are organized by the Southern Anti-Racism Network, and I thoroughly embrace that. And we hope to be working with some of the branches in the different regions in support of it, as it was in the Northeast. But I think the point I'm making is that reparations will continue to be a struggle. So what I had said in the AHR umbrella meeting some time back, that though the UN decade ends in December of 2024, reparations will still be a working group, because those of us who are working on reparations in our cities and states will be continuing to do that until we win. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any other ideas about how to answer these questions, anyone?
Well, in our in our committee, Women, Money, and Democracy, we don't have working groups or subcommittees. We have projects, and we've been working hard to identify annual goals for those projects, and we work together towards them. So it's not like anyone is leading them specifically, but everyone has input into how they are going.
Very good. Thank you, Mary Beth. Jan?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we also, we have like there's one project I think that we've designated to one of our members, and that's to share what's going on in other areas. So there's so much communication that go back and forth regarding Middle East peace and justice stuff. So we have one of our members that she gleans what we just ask her to glean what she thinks is critical at the time, and she's the one person that sends those out. So we're not constantly seeing which one should we read. We've asked her to find the best ones and circulate them to everybody. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the other thing that we've been looking for is the intersectionality, and I hope you had a chance to read the Peace and Freedom article in the latest issue that three of our members did along with Nancy Price from Earth Democracy, because there's so many things that we work together on. So I was real pleased that they were able to interview a critical person in Palestine and create that article about such an important issue. And so, I'm hoping there's other times that we can do things like that across committees.
Thank you, Jan. Darian? It's hard to see your hand there up in the leaves.
Sorry about that, and hard to get off of mute. I appreciate what you were saying, Jan, because you caused me to realize that there's a big difference between an ongoing area of interest that a subcommittee might represent that is not a defined project. It's good for subcommittees or committees to have defined projects and actions and be able to share things, action ideas with the larger WILF community. However, not everything is project focused. As Mary Beth said, you can have goals for a year or for whatever longer term. For a working group, even when there is a specific project or time-defined something, with the UN decade, if we had started at the beginning, that would be 10 years. And that's a long time for a working group to exist and possibly to get a little stiffened in how open it is to new people, whereas our issue committees are in a semi-constant state of flux and are expected to take in whatever new members are interested who work on the concerns of the issue committee. So I'm afraid working groups might create another boundary between who is involved on something and who isn't, that possibly area of interest subcommittees would not have. Thank you.
Thanks, Darian. I also want us, on this topic, we've got 6 more minutes, and I wanted us to, if possible, generate any ideas about new members, getting new members, attracting them, sustaining them, helping with leadership. And I've got a resource around that I want to offer, but Nancy, hey.
Hello, here I am. Sorry to be quite late. I just wanted to say that in Earth Democracy, we have a project yet to be more fully developed on CAFOs. And this involves not working across issue committees, but branches. So it has involved the Triangle branch in North Carolina and the Des Moines branch in Iowa. So that's another way to build collaboration, intersectionality on a project. Thank you.
Great, Nancy. Glad you're here. Okay, so in terms of attracting members and the resource I wanted to offer, and I also open it up for at least the next 5 minutes. I'll take hopefully less than a minute to hear any ideas for attracting members to your issue committee, to your branches, sustaining those members. The resource I wanted to offer is one that helps, I'd say, around building skills to welcome and embrace new members. They would be part of a community building or anti-racism curriculum, but the way that I've put together a set of videos that takes less than 45 minutes and a one-page reading. The reading is on stages of anti-racist learning, and then watch the videos in order, and it helps. At a recent board meeting, Philip said that doing anti-racism work is better for people to do in their head or between their ears or something like that. And this will start that process, I believe, and can be of service. So I'll make that resource available. I'll send it out with the recording. Dee and then Teresa, no more than 3 minutes each, please. Dee.
Yeah, so I believe it's Jan and Shilpa that have begun working on a process towards orientation for new members so that new members know what organization they're joining. A lot of times, if you cast a wide net, you get a lot of people in that may not necessarily be on the mission of wealth. They may be, coming in with some other interests that they want to push upon wealth. So we have to be careful that members that are recruited are on, the mission of this organization, or it will dissolve into chaos if we just grab anybody that wants to join at any point for whatever reason. So I don't know if you want to work with Jan and Shilpa. I did volunteer to help with that. Like Barbara, I think Nielsen has also volunteered to help with that, just so that newer members can understand what organization you're joining and what we're all trying to do. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dee. Teresa?
The importance of recruiting members, and I'm pretty much considered an expert at doing that. And I have proven over the last 3 years that I am a recruiter. And you recruit members to branches. That is important. And so what we have done as a strategy, George, is start branches in the South where there was only one. And so it's from that work that we're able to reach out beyond the South. And so in Rhode Island, when I revisit on October 20th, Direct Action for Rights and Equality, hosting a big event where I'm a speaker, and several of the women have agreed to join WILF. And the tool to get people to join WILF and to understand WILF is the brochure, Join WILF Today. It is an excellent brochure that gives a timeline up to 2022. When people see that, they go, wow, we never heard of this organization. It's been around for over 100 years, and these are overwhelmingly women of color who say that. And so what I have done strategically is to bring in people who are Black, Indigenous women of color to join this organization that has a problem with being so consistently, exclusively white. And that is what must end. Over.
Thanks, Teresa. Okay, I've forgotten. Oh, next is, we're on time, sort of. We're 1 minute ahead. We are at committee updates. So this is anything you want to share about what's going on with your committee. Now, some folks have talked a little bit about their committee already. So, oh, Eileen, I didn't notice your hand when I went back to look at the agenda. Go ahead. No more than 3 minutes, please.
I just snuck it in. I'm so sorry. I wasn't able to form my thoughts fast enough. My concern is sustainability. You can bring someone in, but we're finding up here that not many people want to get involved in a deep way, meaning participate in the meetings and attend things regularly. I don't have any answers. Been trying. Sometimes we go out to have fun, which is, I think, important. Sometimes we ask if there's other things that are on their plate and they want some assistance with, like other issues. And that's often the case. A lot of people who are activists are active in other groups as well. And there's pluses and minuses to that. So I have to throw that in as far as, yeah, we can attract, but how about get them to act regularly? That's it.
Thanks, Eileen. Darian.
Real quick, I want to emphasize that that's where capacity comes in, when people are willing to step up as volunteers, as conveners, as whatever. And that isn't an easy thing to get through recruitment alone. You have to build people up over years. And I hope we're doing that. I think, George, that the materials you've provided us may help with that, because we do want to be, I want WILF to be a multiracial, multicultural organization that welcomes people. And I don't know if our branches are sufficiently welcoming to people of different economic groups, ethnic identities, or even ages. I always am afraid what might happen to a young person coming into an established older WILF branch. You have to be very welcoming, not to scare people away. So retention is a challenge, and thank you for bringing this up as an agenda item.
Yes, and it won't be the last time we talk about this, because if we are successful at attracting more members, we also have to be able to retain those members. We also, as you said, don't scare them away or make them come back to you and say, why the hell did you tell me to join that group? Okay, let's hear from our committees. I'm going to start with folks who haven't really spoken yet tonight. So Lenny, Nancy, and Dee to start us off with. Lenny, what's happening with y'all? You told us your next meeting is September 6th.
At 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 8 p.m. Eastern. Many of you are already on the mailing list if you want to be on the at the meeting. Yeah, the nature of the Cuban and Bolivarian Alliance Issue Committee is that we work collaboratively with other organizations that are involved with Cuba Solidarity primarily. And these are many member organizations and campaigns of the National Network on Cuba, which we are a member of. And so the current campaign is the Off the List campaign and the No on the Force Act campaign. And that's what we're doing. We don't see at this time a need to have an entirely separate campaign or you know, program that is other than what other solidarity groups are doing. But hey, who knows? We're going to have a little retreat at the end of September, and just for the core, and we will maybe we'll come up with something. Who knows?
There you go. Good thinking. Nancy and then Dee.
Here I am back again as chair of the Earth Democracy Committee. So as I think I've emphasized and said before, from about 2019 onward, Earth Democracy was very focused on PFAS, exposing the Pentagon and their military pollution with PFAS. And so that project has now matured very much with Marguerite Edelman working on her Vermont PFAS legislative project, and also developing a very good webinar on PFAS. So now I'm sort of working backwards to what we had been developing in other areas of our Earth democracy work, and sort of reimagining, reinventing a broader program. So that's taking place, and you can look for some of that going up on the new website with good materials and other items to be found. I think right now that with all the work on militarism and climate, there's good collaboration to be developed with several of the committees, actually. And I think that's going to be a very strong focus for us going forward. So I look to an enthusiastic embrace of our sort of reimagining and new work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robin, you have your hand up, and then we go to Dee.
Yeah. Just wanted to ask Teresa, is this the brochure you're referring to? Join WILF today. Is that backwards or not? Because
it's not backwards.
Okay.
You can see it. You can read it.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I
you would think,
find it very
that
good because I very much like the timeline here. And I say to people, read that timeline and be impressed. That's all.
that is exactly the brochure, and I'm kind of stunned that Mary Beth Gardam is asking me to put a link to it in the chat. It is a hard copy brochure that Chris Wilbeck sends out in 50 counts with no cost to anybody who asks for it. So if you're building branches, you just simply get the brochures from either Jan Quarterman or Chris Wilbeck. I don't have a link to it. It's a real document that Wilf puts out to help with recruitment, Mary Beth.
Darian says she can put a link in the chat. You'll just have to get the printing on your own that way. But thank you. And Dee, your
Hello.
committee, you got 3 minutes.
Yeah, briefly, I wanted to state, go back to that orientation thing on recruiting. I watched a documentary, The Murder of Fred Hampton, where members of the Black Party, the Black Panther Party, actually created an orientation into their party so that the people that joined, because there was fracturing even within the Black Panther Party, where people going off, went different ideas. And so this is the program we're on, and this is how we do things. And so that's why I've been really advocating that there be orientation for new members. In DPAL, we have 4 new people that have been invited to tomorrow night's meeting that actually directly stemmed out of the gathering. One of them was already invited before, but she's had difficulty with making it. Eva Egozi, the new younger person that began the branch in Florida that focuses on domestic abuse in that branch. She's been invited along with 3 new people from the gathering that expressed interest and wanted to join up with us and find out about us. We are also reaching out to smaller sister organizations to collaborate with. And one result of our working groups that we have is that at least one domestic violence agency is requested to be invited to the webinar. We're hoping through our October 21st webinar that more, it'll generate more interest in the people that are actually working on these issues already, and that we can build a really strong coalition with which to begin outreach, towards working with the branches and supporting them. We're going to need more people, a stronger base of committed people, but this is how we're going about doing it. Thank you.
All right. Pretty perfect time-wise, although now we're a little bit behind. I know we heard a little bit from Disarm, but there may be more to say. Cheryl, is there anything you need to add about what you said with Disarm? If you could do it in 2 minutes, that'd be awesome.
Yes, no, we also work in coalition with very many other groups, and If you read your e-news, we're spend time writing an e-news article for every e-news, and you will find activities and actions that we're asking all branch members and all members to do, especially around this global week of action to get an end to the war in Ukraine. Okay, this Ukraine has been on the top of our minds for the last year and a half, and I assume a lot of you also. So it's please, take note of what we put in the e-news, and I gave you all a 3-minute explanation of what Disarm does at the Wolf gathering, the online gathering. I think that's all written out because I made sure it only lasted 3 minutes. So I will maybe send a copy of that to the program committee list. So yes, we're doing lots of things, and we have lots of people who take part and offer to, work on these campaign projects. So I think, we're moving along nicely. Thank you.
Excellent. Mary Beth, your hand is up, and then I think Jan, you might have some committee stuff to talk about. Mary Beth?
Yeah, the mention of the e-news reminded me that we should all be aware that now when you go to the e-news on our website, even the archive pages and the former month, you can click on a specific story, copy the link that appears in your browser, and paste that link onto your personal Facebook page, and it will display, and you can even write a short comment about it, like, I'm really involved with this organization. They're doing great work. You should think about joining us. That was never able to be done before. It was always kind of a source of irritation to me that you couldn't do it, but now you can. So this is a good thing.
It is a good thing. Jan, you have anything to say about membership development?
You mean
Or
MapJack or?
nominations? You could talk about nominations. You have to be voted on, by the way, you and all of our people. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah, let me talk about MapJack for a minute. First, one of the things that, and Tura's taken the lead here, so she knows more about it than I do, but there's an apartheid-free communities effort that's going on nationwide, and so we're involved with it. AFSC is kind of leading the charge there. And then also we have a convention coming up that's always very informative, campaign for Palestinian rights. So we're looking forward to that. Membership development. Yeah, we're doing some work right now. We've got a subcommittee that's pulling together the final steps so that we can advertise for a part-time organizer that'll help us build branches and build leadership in branches. So please watch for that. And I think we're all really looking forward to that. That's what I can think of right now, George.
Well, that's perfect because we have 7 minutes left. And the first thing that we're going to do Philip? What's happening, Philip?
Well, thank you for calling on me. I appreciate it. I'm driving and it's rush hour in California, but I get to pull over now. I just wanted to, I'm not a committee chair, but I attend as many meetings as possible to keep to see what's going on around the organization. And I want to just address interest, sustainability, and retention as quickly as possible. And I want to congratulate Cheryl Spencer because when she divided up the listserv for the Disarm Committee between business for the Disarm Committee and the discussion for the Disarm Committee, I was dead set against it. I thought it was elitist, but I think it's a success. It turns out that it keeps up a great deal of interest in the Disarm Committee. And so sometimes I'm dead wrong, and this is the time that she is dead right. And I want to applaud her efforts. And two is as far as sustainability and retention, I think we should maintain giving out the gift memberships when appropriate. I think it's important to do so when deemed appropriate, but also I think it's important for people to pay their own $35 when they join Wolf because it is an investment. And when people invest their $35, you're going to keep the retention, you're going to keep the interest, and people are not going to walk away from their $35 readily. So I think that's important. So when we do this salesmanship and recruiting, I think it's really important to basically look for that $35 and it helps the overall financial health of Wolf. And it's one of our biggest single drivers for fundraising is our membership dues. Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Okay, I see that Teresa's hand is up in Jan's. So now we will not be ending in 4 minutes because when folks' hands go up in the last 10 minutes, it's not possible to end on time. That's just how it works. Teresa and then Jan.
Well, I'll be pretty brief, George. I just want people to pay attention to the exchanges in the chat because I think it's important for things to get clarified around how we're trying to work, some of us so hard, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really find it just really abhorrent that they're all white issue committees and all white branches. I think that is a real problem for recruitment in general, especially in diverse cities like Boston. And, you know, it's good to see how the Greater Philadelphia branch is trying very hard to overcome that history of the branch as an all-white branch. So I just think, George, that at this point, as program committee chair, really working on diversity, equity, and inclusion in terms of leadership within the various issue committees so that all issue committees have an anti-racism transformation plan for inclusion. And so people aren't just comfortable with the same little few people that they have, and they are really willing, because quite honestly, the people I recruit, they have been working with the Southern Anti-Racism Network for a while, and I recruit them to WILF. And I don't want them to have a bad experience, which is why the Fannie Lou Hamer branch is as strong as it is, because the people I'm recruiting lately are in large part to this branch, where it is Black women led. Over.
Thank you. Jan?
Yeah, thanks, George. I just wanted to give a shout out to Eva Agosi, and I hope you met her, remember meeting her the second night of our gathering, but Eva is the new chair for our new Miami branch. And I asked her how she came to join WILF, and she said she was, and I think this will be kind of instructive for all of us. She said she was looking for a feminist peace organization, and she wanted one that wasn't restrictive on the issues they covered, that was open to lots of different things. And so she found us online. So I think that says something how we might operate going forward. Also, they named their branch the Miami Mujeres. And so making it clear that who they're open to. Eva is of Cuban descent, so they wanted a name that they felt was very, very open to people of that community and all communities. So and she's I asked her, I finally, after I happen to be the lucky one out of the membership development committee that worked with her, and I finally asked her after several months how old she was. She was a sophomore in high school when she started the branch. She's now entering her junior year, and she's up to 20 members. So I think give her a call sometime if you want to get some ideas. She's more than happy to talk to people, and yeah, she's working with Dee, I think on your committee too, Dee, if I'm right about that. And so she's a real joy. Thank you.
She absolutely is. Thank you. Okay, so I think maybe we can get done in the next 6 minutes. This next piece we're going to do is simply a brainstorm, which I have not done on a Zoom, but you can put your response in the chat. You can raise your hand and say it. I'm going to be paying attention to this recording so that I know what we're doing in our next meeting, since a lot of our conversations are ongoing because we're developing better issue committees and better branches and better programs. Okay, so you don't have to close your eyes or anything groovy, but I want you to think about, given your issue committee, when you hear water on the front lines of peace, what do you think about? Water on the front lines of peace. And your issue committee, what comes up? Write it in the chat. Don't think too hard. It's a brainstorm. This is not analysis. This is mostly coming from your gut and your heart. What are your thoughts? We're going to do this for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to do announcements, and then we're done. Cheryl Spencer, what you got?
Yes, well, ever since I heard that water was going to be a theme for our Congress, which was about, I don't know, 6 months ago, I've been collecting information that I read in the newspaper. Today, I went to a 1-hour lecture online by a woman who's written a book called what's it called? Water Always Wins. She's went all over the world investigating why, what people were doing about the fact that water was an important part of their life. And the book's just come out, Water Always Wins. She would be an excellent overall speaker in reminding us how important water is from different points of view. For example, I learned that, the forests provide a lot of water out of their photosynthesis stuff. So also, I looked up, water as a source of conflict, and there are many conflicts that are going on in the world over water. It would be Disarm's point of view. Many, Egypt has threatened Ethiopia if it carries out to divert more water from the Blue Nile. India and Bangladesh are fighting over water. A lot of water comes from the Himalayas, comes into rivers that feed into different parts of that area. So Pakistan and India are likely, if they're going to go to war, it's going to be over water. So we need, and then Jordan and Israel are fighting over water. So unfortunately,
there's a minute left for you.
Fine. So I think Disarm will be trying to produce some information on that and what can be done about it. Of course, what can be.
Excellent. Sounds good. And thanks for all the things going in the chat. This is excellent. Nancy, can you go for 2 or 3 minutes, not more than 3?
Yes, thank you. So as chair of the Congress 2024 program committee, I would welcome getting emails from any of you with suggestions for movies, books, poems, what you think your issue committee would like to present, so that we can take everything into consideration. Thank you very much. I have a very good program committee, and Dee is part of making this all happen as Congress coordinator. And we're going to get out some materials fairly soon on Save the Date. So we're programming along. Thank you very much. Oh, I just also want to mention, because Cheryl mentioned, or I think Philip did, Earth Democracy does have a Earth Democracy team listserv and also a discussion listserv. And we were very glad to have 4 people join after the gathering, which I thought was a great accomplishment. That is the gathering, the 2 days of the gathering were really a great, brilliant idea. Thank you.
So you're the 3rd issue committee who's had people join as a result of the gathering. That's a good plus
You
for the
bet.
gathering. Yeah. Dee?
Hi, thank you, Nancy. So one of the things that we've been working on with Darian is trying to get a living document coming out of this Congress of resources. We don't want all of the emails and suggestions and material to just end with those of us that receive it in our inboxes. We'd like to have it so it's accessible for everyone to kind of generate passion and interest in this particular topic, whichever area of it is. So we're in preliminary discussions on how to break this down. A suggestion has come up that we do it on Facebook. I have a Congress page on Facebook where there can be participation from, you know, anyone that wants to post about, you know, a link or video or book reference or what have you that they feel they like other people to see. And so that's a good way to channel. We've gotten a lot of emails, links, and suggestions, and there's really much more material that can be fit into the program. So the living document is the next step towards creating a resource list for anyone that wants to continue on with a particular area or issue that has to do with water. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
could I just add something, George, quickly?
Please. The please is for the quickly part. Go ahead.
So Dee, you and I will need to consult on if it goes to a Facebook page, but also whether suggestions are to come to me or to you and me together so that we begin to have a working list for just putting the program together.
Right, yeah, and we've had that discussion over the last week.
Yeah.
And then initially what I suggested with I think you were copied in on this, was a separate link on our Save the Date flyer to another site, another server where people could go and put all of their ideas and thoughts and information in. But that's kind of morphed into a Facebook page for Congress.
Okay,
For the
y'all are gonna
Congress.
talk about that more offline. I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So just to
We're
let you all
meeting
know that this is happening.
But I'll fill you in. We're meeting after this anyway, Nancy. So
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Very good.
Great stuff.
Y'all for whom it's not getting bedtime. Okay, Darian, you said you've got announcements, so you start off our announcements, Darian.
Okay, well, I will start by thanking Mary Beth for doing such a great job covering the, I think, most important announcement, the one about our Facebook page capability now available on the website. So that's a wonderful improvement on things. And she gave exact directions for how to do it. If you have any problems, Mary Beth is a good person to check with, certainly not me. And I do want to note that the WILF US Facebook page, people are welcome to comment, share, and like the stories on the WILF US Facebook page. If you want to actually post something, that's what our WILF Smart Group page is about. So that's a Facebook group, and you're welcome to join, contact Ellen Thomas about that. Take a look at it. All kinds of WILF interesting stories are on the WILF Smart Group page. Another very important announcement is about Zoom meeting scheduling. For those issue committees that rely on the WILF US Zoom account, or anyone else, other kinds of committees using the WILF US Zoom account, it will be from me that you ask for reservations for the next 3 days. Jocelyn is no longer working for WILF. She got another position that demanded a lot of her time. So I'll be handling the Zoom scheduling just for 3 days, and then Ellen Schwartz will be taking over from there. I will put her cell phone number in the chat, because the best way to ask her for a specific date and time is by texting her. So that'll be in the chat when I'm done making announcements. Also, Chris Wilbeck is going to be unavailable for about 10 days doing work offline between various financial reports that have to be in, and having Barbara Nielsen is new as a treasurer this year. So Chris is helping her with those reports. So Chris is very busy and she also has to prepare all kinds of other documents. So please, I understand that if you have an urgent problem, you should probably contact her, but generally that would need to be by phone. She won't be responding to emails, and preferably you just don't contact her for 10 days for making any requests. If you're just CCing her on something, she'll see that after 10 days. And related to the change in Zoom scheduling, the reason I'm not the Zoom scheduler after the end of this month is I'll be gone for the second half of September. So if you have any e-alerts you're thinking about, please contact me about them no matter when you wanted to send them out. You might want to send them out September 30th, but you need to contact me about them no later than September 10th, because I will be available only now and then via email and not at all by phone. So thank you. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'm sure I can answer them. And I was going to put, I'll put Ellen's phone number in the chat.
Thanks, Darian. Any other announcements? No? I have one. It's for people who live in New England. So that's Robin, and I think maybe Nancy's here now. And I know you know about this, Nancy. On September 17th in New York City, there will be a march to end fossil fuels. And there is a anti-militarism hub. So if you know anybody who's going to be there and they want to be part of the anti-militarism hub, email me and I'll connect you with the anti-militarism hub planning team, which I'm on, but I'm not going to be in New York on September 17th. New York is the least friendly city I've ever been in as somebody who has mobility issues. Try to find a handicapped bathroom anywhere in Manhattan. I dare you.
Wow.
All right, Robin, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. You can get your Peace in Ukraine button from I got 20 of them for $14 from Wacky Buttons. And my second question is, George, I heard a rumor that you were going on sabbatical. Is that
If I
true?
raise enough money, or when I raise enough money, yes. 3 months is the hope and goal. Indeed. We'll see how it goes. So far, so good. Thanks for all the prayers and gifts and honors. I'm 64. I deserve a break. All right. So
Please
any
enjoy.
other announcements?
George, will you save the chat?
I will save the chat. I'll send it out with the recording and my list of community building, what other people call anti-racism resources, after I've processed the recording. So probably
Good, thank you very much.
Morning. I know that Teresa had her hand up for the chat, but she's gone. I wish I had any clue about what her announcement was. I do not know, but I will invite her to let me add that to what is going out tomorrow with the recording.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
y'all.
very
Thanks
much,
for your
George.
patience and time hanging out for an extra 13 minutes. Good Lord. All right, then, y'all. Good evening. Bye. Peace and blessings.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.